We almost went 0-17 last year. We had a single win. A single win. But now we're here going into our third season with this Niners team. We have a new quarterback, Spencer Faulkner, who we acquired in the draft in the first round. That draft is quite the story, so if you did not see what happened there, go back and watch pretty much from the start of the draft until the very end of the episode, and you'll see all the mistakes that we seem to have made during that draft. But don't forget that we got rid of Brock Purdy, Chase Perkins, we traded away Derek Quinn, we got rid of both of our starting corners last year, Cam Taylor-Britt to Tennessee, and Lenoir to the Chicago Bears. So now we're here, but we also missed out on this guy right here. Elijah McCutcheon came out of the draft as an 88 overall. We had the first overall pick, and I traded that pick away to the Vikings, and they took this guy. I was betting on them not taking him because I was going to choose him a couple picks later, but I got too cute, and now we're here. We don't have him on the team, so our top corner now is Julian Kilroy entering his second season, but we acquired a lot of good players in this draft class to fill the holes that we lost in the trades and the holes that we lost in free agents as well. We brought in Anthony Newsome as another first-round pick that we give a lot of extra picks to get, and it wasn't really worth it. So far, it hasn't been worth it, but maybe this year they can prove us wrong and the rookies can step up and maybe just put together a couple of nice games and show us that I did not majorly mess up that draft by trading up for the running back, trading back from the first overall pick, and all those different moves that we made. I was happy in the preseason with Sean Spriggs' development because he did a great job going from like a sub 70 overall to over 70 overall by the time the year started. And Clay Henson did too, a couple of nice things here with a training camp breakout scenario, and then one for DeAndre Middleton as well, who is coming off a really down season. And he's had one of these before, but he's on a contract year. He needs to prove to us that he can be one of those trustable pass rushers week in, week out. In preseason, we end up with a top 5 rushing offense, but both sides of the ball weren't very good overall in terms of points per game allowed and points per game scored. In fact, the defense was actually pretty damn bad during preseason, and we did not win a single game, 0-3. So in this preseason, it looks like Brandon Casper, who was the late round rookie that we took, was awful. He threw 3 picks, 1 touchdown. Faulkner threw no touchdowns, but his rating wasn't too good. The YPA was kind of low for both players. So don't want to put too much stock into preseason stats, but it is a thing to look out for going into this third year. Looks like Newsome had a pretty decent job. I mean, 4.0 per carry, 2 touchdowns, 50 yards in the preseason game. So he got the ball plenty of times. Ayuk obviously led the receiving corps as you might expect. George Ford caught 1 touchdown. He's that hidden dev rookie tight end that we took in the, I think it was the second or third round. Tackle-wise, we had plenty, but sacks, we actually had a couple. We had 4 total, so having just over 1 per game, and we had 2 picks too with Hufanga and another player, and Stevens was perfect, so we drafted him. We had Pat Phillips last year, but I don't think he was too good, and I feel like we can just put this guy in our practice squad and hope that Tyler Stevens does better than him in his rookie year. These are all the cuts that we made. I moved Enrique Morrison to right end instead of left end to match the scheme. Those are the cuts. And for the objective for the year, I ended up putting 4 because coming off the 1-win season, I was not expecting us to be good this year. I was kind of expecting kind of a similar season and not too many wins. So that's the game plan there. But Middleton has to get 2 combined sacks or tackles for loss to break out in week 1. And going into the first game for Spencer Faulkner, our new franchise quarterback, I just want to see flashes. I just want to see a couple of good stats there. I'm not expecting anything crazy. But the key to victory for us is going to be offense and doing well on that side of the football because we were terrible on both sides last year. But I think I want to get the offense patched up first because if we can't, then I don't know what I'm going to have to do to get it back on track. But to do that, we got to at least start off well in the passing game and get Faulkner off to a decent start and just not start off absolutely slow. Before we get into this game, though, we have a couple of upgrade points for a couple of players. We acquired Terrence Ford last episode in a trade. We drafted Sean Spriggs, who has had at least 3 upgrade points already before the year even starts. But we're going to miss Shaquille Franklin, who is one of those big defensive tackles, one of those big players that we signed in the open market. So he's going to miss. And we ended up losing on opening day by a lot. They curb stomped us 28-7. Gabe Taylor played very well. Although he threw a pick, he had a really good rating and was 25 for 30 with a 9.0 YPA, while Faulkner just did not play well. Really low rating, below 200 yards, no picks, but took 4 sacks, YPA below 6.0. And, I mean, both running backs had over 4.0, but not a whole lot of carries for either team. And DJ Metcalf, Landon Howard, these guys played well against us. Christian Kirk caught a touchdown, but none for us. We had 3 guys allow a sack in this game. In terms of defense on sacks, we had none against them, but we allowed 4. Not sure who the 4th one is going to be attributed to. But Terrence Ford at least got a pick. That's good for the new pickup. But of course, Tyler Stevens has his first ever field goal blocked in our first game. Just weird. Middleton fails to break out, of course, and Ayuk is talking about how we should have won this game, but it's only 1 game, plenty of time left. That's true, but we thought the same last year and went 1-16. Coming out of this game, talking about Faulkner. Did not have the game that I would have hoped him to have, but that's okay. He's a rookie. It's 1 game. We have so much time left to get through the rest of his career in a season. We get Chambers up to 85, but he's really got to put together a solid year here because we need a pass rush. We need somebody at least on this defense to really step up, so hopefully he and James Allen can do that. And for James Allen, he is playing in the same role that he was last year, but he's playing alongside a better player in Shaquille Franklin. So going forward from week 2 and onward, we'll see what Franklin and him can do side by side in the trenches. We're going to miss George Ford for 2 weeks due to a broken finger in practice. So he's done for weeks 2 and 3. And we'd lose both of those games. And through 3 weeks, we've been blown out in all 3 of our games. Allowed 28 points or more and scoring less than 15 points in all 3. This was a horrible performance, very similar to our week 1 game. Blair Murphy pops off. Faulkner, despite having a high YPA, threw 2 picks and had a really low rating, below 80. And then Kendall Randall, this random running back, all of a sudden has a huge day against us in a divisional matchup. Jameson Williams always seems to play well against our secondary. And Kerry Brennan got on the board with a touchdown. But Clay Farr allows his 2nd sack in 2 weeks. So we'll keep tabs on that. Meanwhile, Tyrell Killings had a sack and a half. But we didn't really have any. We threw 2 picks. And then against the Packers, we put up less than 200 total yards of offense. They put up, what was it, north of 400? Yeah, north of 400. And Faulkner had an even worse game. We had 70 passing yards. And he wasn't even hurt. Just 70 passing yards straight up. I don't understand how that's even feasibly possible. But we are able to do it. Big day for Newsome, but only got 14 carries. So, I mean, at least he played well on those carries. But Clay Farr allows 2 more sacks. That's 4 sacks in 3 weeks. And we acquired, no, we had signed him in free agency. So, as of right now, I'm glad I did not get rid of Aldridge because Clay Farr was picked up as his replacement. We're going to change the playbook to Arizona, just try and get Faulkner more on the move, get some more runs for him because the playbook that we had before this clearly was not working for the scrambler archetype. So just trying to change things up before it's too late, just like it was last year. So 3 touchdowns, we'll get a Faulkner upgrade. So we'll see if he plays well on this one. His first game on a new playbook. But at least we got some accuracy upgrades right there. And we got one for the new rookie running back, Anthony Newsome, the CMC replacement. Nice +3 break tackle. And then for some protection for Spencer Faulkner, going to go pass protector for Brody Carter. Now we got Delvin Matthews, who I'm looking for more run stopping from, more tackles for loss. I haven't really noticed him hardly at all in terms of stats. And for the offensive line, I am going to bench Clay Farr. I think 4 sacks this early on is way too much for a right tackle to be giving up. So I'm going to play Aldridge there instead. We would win our first game. Right after this, we take down Minnesota and Elijah McCutcheon. Despite being outgained in yardage, we put some points on the board finally, and our defense finally held a team to below 20. A good day for Faulkner. Really good rating at pretty much 105. Way better than his previous 3 games. Ramon Payton played well, but we actually beat him for once. I think I have like a 1-3 record or 1-5 record against Payton in his career as a head coach. So good to beat him. Brandon caught 1 touchdown. Blocking wise, we had 1 sack allowed in this game by Gilliard. So the offensive line played really well in this game. We had a couple of sacks from Franklin, Middleton, and James Allen. That's got to be our best defensive day all day long. And a pick for Hufanga. So that was good. We had a safety for James Allen as well in this game too. And this was against McCutcheon, who had 1 tackle for loss and 4 total tackles. But besides that, didn't really do a whole lot at all. No deflections, no INTs, nothing really. And for Faulkner, he fails to break out. Did not have the game that he was hoping for. And he still gets +5 medium and deep accuracy for our next game. But we lose it against the Seattle Seahawks, which is like a yearly basis kind of a thing now. We almost allowed 500 yards of offense, man. And this guy, Cameron Butler, now in his 2nd season, has played well against us in all 3 games so far in his career. Kenneth Walker is there. They drafted Jeremy Fox 1st round, which made no sense because they still have Walker, who's one of the best running backs across the entire NFL. But they got JSN. He pops up for 100. We allow 1 more sack, but haven't seen any sacks allowed by our tackles this game. That's good. But hardly any sacks at all. Tyler Stevens was perfect, but we lose that game. And now we are 1-4 through 5 weeks, bottom of our division, and the Cardinals are 5-0. We're playing against the 4-1 Lions. They've got the number 1 offense, while we have the 31st offense and the 32nd defense. We're just repeating last year all over again, it seems like, despite the major changes. Now, we're a young team. We're not a good overall team. Just look at the comparison between us and them. Their overall is way higher. But this is really disheartening that we're not even playing well in any of these games besides the 1 win. Now, so far through 5 weeks, Faulkner 4 touchdowns, 2 INTs. I said pretty much 1 game where he threw the bad picks, but otherwise, he hasn't been really turning the ball over, but we just aren't moving the ball at all. Now, we're a game or 2 away from figuring out what his dev trait is, but these last 2 games have been by far his best, but we're still not winning all of them, obviously, so at least we know that this playbook change just seems to be working for him. Newsom is off to a really good start to his career, but pretty much living off 1 good game, really. So I can't expect this to really continue because he's had, 3 games over 4.0, but 2 below. We'll see if that picks up, but it's been pretty inconsistent on the ground for him. Hopefully it can continue, though, because that would be huge for him to get a dev upgrade if he wins Rookie of the Year, perchance. But receiving yards, there's just not a lot here for anybody, really. Ayuk's got over 60 per game, but that's still not really enough for the guy that's supposed to be your number 1. But you got 3 guys over 40 yards a game, but 3 touchdowns to Kerry Brennan, but none for Ayuk. Clay Farr obviously allowed the 4 sacks in 3 games, so he's been benched, and everyone else is playing at a pretty similar level to themselves, so I don't feel bad about that anymore. The offensive line seems fine. But on defense, still no pass rush. We have, 4 total sacks through 5 weeks? Or 5 sacks through 5 weeks? How? That's just really, really bad. Now Victor Weeks is upset about his production. He wants to get more targets. And so I'm saying, there's no I in team, brother, but he doesn't care. He's upset now at his boiling point. So things are not looking good. We're going to a very similar start of the year as to last year. We got our same win around the same time this year too. So hoping to at least get a few extra wins compared to last year, but we'll see if that happens. We get blown out by the Lions here, 36-10, and things are only getting worse. Joel Bradley just absolutely diced us up. over 330 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. And Faulkner once again takes care of the football, but we just can't complete the throws. We're not moving the ball down the field on a consistent game-by-game basis. And this game, Newsom had less than 2 per carry. What the heck happened? Keon Caldwell had a huge day. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a huge day. Victor Weeks at 91. Hopefully he's going to shut the heck up about his production now. But we allowed 3 sacks. And we only got to him twice. But finally got one for Chambers at least. That's a positive sign. But Stevens missed a field goal. Not really sure it matters given that we lost by 26. But now we're going into one of the most lopsided games you'll ever see. Everything's green for them. Everything's red for us. And they're 6-0. We're 1-5. And we're going to miss Ezekiel Chambers in this game too. And they blank us 45-0. This is too much. That is insane. Kyler Murray just repeats what Joel Bradley did last week and puts together the same exact performance. He was 30 for 30 in this game. Not a single incompletion. How? And Faulkner had his worst offensive day of the season. Just incomprehensible stuff unfolding here. Chad Overstreet, massive performance. We allow a few more sacks, which I'm not going to be concerned about because that will happen. Got a sack for James Allen and a couple of picks off of Faulkner, but we are dead last. We are scoring 11.4 points per game. 11.4. That is like almost historically awful. Almost historically awful. We got to think about contracts now that we're here in week 7. And these are all the guys that are up for contracts. And the first guy is Middleton. He is pretty high overall, but he simply hasn't been good. He's had only one decent year. Outside of that one, he hasn't done anything for us. And so, because he's on his 4th year of his deal, and he's available to negotiate, I want to find a trade partner right now because he needs to be going. We got to figure out the pieces that are working. We got to throw things at the wall, see what sticks and see what doesn't. And Middleton was here before we took over, and he's not going to continue here either. So these are all the offers, and some of these don't make sense for them or for us, but eventually I was able to find one. Now, Vikings were offering Andrew Potts as a zone corner, so did not take that deal, but the Buccaneers offered Christopher Parker, who's in his 2nd year, but 75 overall, normal dev, 85-man coverage. Some other stuff needs to work, but a good starting place for a really young player. Our guy is still young with a better dev trait, so I figured, why not make a deal for this guy? You give away a guy that hasn't performed but has potential in DeAndre Middleton. You get an extra 7th round pick in the draft, and you get a new number 2 corner to play alongside Julian Kilroy. So that's what I did, and he's gone. So Blakely steps in as the new left end for the rest of the season. We'll see if he even can get a single sack this year. Hasn't had any so far. But in terms of our corners, we're going to make Parker the number 2 over Terrence Ford. And I'm going to play Sean Spriggs at the 4 or the 3 over Terrence Ford. I'll play Ford at the 4. So now we have 4 or really 5 really young corners to build around for the future, but still looking for maybe a better improvement at some other point in the draft if there is a better option there, similar to Kilroy 2 years back. I don't want to screw that up one more time, so I refuse to do it now. But then I thought about Ayuk being 32 years old. He has a huge cap hit. We need more cap room to really throw ourselves into a rebuild. And I figured, why not find a partner that is a good team that wants to add a new receiver to the repertoire, and one of those teams was the Dolphins. Now they have Moore and Pickens, but Archibald's their 3rd guy, and they made an offer to us in that offer for Ayuk, but I wanted to get my own offer out there just for picks and not a player. So Ayuk is in Miami now for this year's 1st and 3rd round picks in Miami. So an extra 1st, an extra 3rd, and we ship off one of the last couple of players from those championship runs in San Francisco. It's a corresponding move. We're going to call up Braden Ayers from our practice squad for the rest of our year. But now we've got 5 top 100 picks. 6 top 101 picks, including our first 4th rounders. So next year we also have 6 top 100 picks. So these next 2 years are the years to make those moves and get things done in the young player category in the draft. But in this Week 7 game, we lose against the Chiefs, down 31-21. Faulkner played pretty well, but Mahomes just played better and more efficiently. Despite us having a good day on the ground, they were better. Mahomes and Pacheco both average over 4 per carry, and we did not pass the ball, incredibly well. I mean, he wasn't bad, definitely, but he was pretty solid. Just couldn't get a lot of yards, really. We got a sack and a half for Chambers in this game, the other half coming from Delvin Matthews. But out of this game, Newsome has a chance to break out, according to our OC, Will Hudson. So at least there's some good news coming out of the first half of this season. And so for this game, we're going to run the ball outside, try and get this ball in his hands and give him more carries. But the Rams signed Pat Phillips off our practice squad, and upgrade point for Gilliard. Going to go pass protector here. Good stuff there. Now we got one for Gordon Harrison, the young superstar free safety. But can't say I've noticed his play all too much either. But we lose here in Week 9 against Ayuk and the Dolphins. So obviously we just shipped him off here a week ago, but he beats us. Cobbs has a nice, or not Cobbs, Tua has a nice day. But neither quarterback threw for 200 yards. Faulkner, 2 touchdowns, no picks, but a pretty low completion percentage at 53%. H.N. had 5.1 per carry. And don't forget that these guys have Buckner. He scores 3 times on the ground despite a low amount per carry. Why are all these teams that have star running backs taking these good ones in the first 2 rounds of the draft? I don't get it. It really pisses me off, because if I knew that, I could have just waited for Buckner probably and not traded up to get one. But who cares? We got to move on from that anyways. In terms of defense, we had a couple of split sacks in this game, but we lose again, and Newsome fails to break out in this one. So that sucks. We almost never get breakout chances here in this series, unfortunately. But for Faulkner, upgrade point for him. He goes up to a 73 field general. And he is a star dev player. That sucks. That's the worst it could be. I wish that it was X Factor, but it wasn't. George Ford, upgrade point for him. He was also a hidden dev. And he's a star, so at least he's not normal like Devin Russell is. But now in the draft class, I am not going to screw up corner this time. I saw Micah Betts here, so I'm going to use one of our focus scouting points on him just to confirm that. And then I also want to use it on 2 of these receivers, because receiver now is going to be a thing for us to look at in the draft due to the Ayuk trade. So I'm looking at corner and receiver. But out of the bye week, we lose 2 more games against the Raiders and the Cardinals. Losing by 1 against the Raiders, allowing a 4th quarter coming despite us putting up 450 offensive yards and Faulkner's best day of his career by far, and we still can't even win. Come on. That is insane. He was so good in this game. Over 350 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and we still lose. The defense sucks. We couldn't run the ball in this game either, but Clay Henson and Victor Weeks both had massive days. 120 for each and a score. Just by far our best offensive performance, and it was all for naught. At least we got the XP for it, though. Then against the Cardinals, we put up 6 points. Allow 14 and we lose. So first we score 24, can't win. Then we allow 14 and can't win. It's like neither side of the ball wants to help each other out this year. And Newsome is just slowing down every game. His average gets lower per carry. Sack-wise, we're still allowing a couple of sacks per game. So it's not a perfect offensive line. Got a sack for Chambers here at least. Tyler Stevens missed another field goal. There are 2 receivers, Christian Lamb and John Locke, and both being around 1 to 2 talents. So Lamb here is a playmaker, 5'11", 21 years old out of NC State. Plenty of good player notes right there. But the speed is at solid and good only. But everything besides injury and deep route is pretty damn good. So if you want a guy like him, he's a good guy to go after. And for John Locke, I think I like him less despite him being a lot faster and a better athlete. His medium route, spin move, short route, and stamina and injury are all very, very low. And so is catching at D. That is questionable. So I'm not going for John Locke for sure in this draft. And then there also is this other receiver, Wheatley, who's a deep threat. Fantastic athlete overall with great speed, great to elite speed. I think he's my top guy, but the stiff arm is low, so is the medium route and the catch in traffic, so we'll see about him. But I think right now, he and Lamb are the top two receivers, while Micah Betts is by far the best corner. But the focus cutting failed to work on him, unfortunately, so I don't even get the extra percentage scouted for him. So, don't know him in terms of, his round one talent. But upgrade point for Newsom, I'm going to go power. And one for Parker, the guy that we acquired at the deadline. Going to go man-to-man for him. And then Sean Spriggs, another one. Still incredibly happy with his development. He's done a great job so far this year, just improving via practice reps and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens. But going into our next game, we've got a playing spoiler boost against the Commanders and Brock Purdy. But we lose the game. 16-7, our second straight game, allowing less than 20 points and failing to score more than once. Faulkner threw 2 picks, no touchdowns, one of his worst days all year long. And Brock Purdy didn't play too well either, but they still won the game. Looks like Henson had 63 yards, Victor Weeks 32, no sacks allowed by us, and we still couldn't do anything. There's a sack for James Allen, half a sack for Ezekiel Chambers. But yeah, just another stinker of a game. He would sim our next 2 games and lose to the Rams, but take down the Chargers. So we at least got one more win than last year. That's good. We lose to the Rams though, 27-14. The offense just simply can't score. And now Faulkner's thrown 5 picks in his last 2 games. I mean, he wasn't throwing too many picks coming into this game or coming into these last 2 weeks, but now he's over double what he was throwing before. Owen Weaver and Curtis pop off for huge days against our defense, still showing that the secondary is leaving a lot to be desired. So, questions about Gordon Harrison now at free safety, and the young corners, you have to wait for them then to get better. But you want to go after actual real number 2 alongside Kilroy, or an actual number 1 in front of him. You probably need to if you want your defense to really be a good defense. Now, we beat the Chargers here thanks to a really good day from Faulkner. Newsom was held in check, but Clay Henson, another big day, his second huge day of the season, putting over 130 yards and a touchdown. Victor Weeks hauls one in. You don't allow any sacks in this game, so great job there, and 2 more sacks for Chambers. So I think he's on track for a much better year than last year, thank God, because I think last year he had less sacks than his rookie season. But that was the 10-4 Chargers. That was a huge win. And so we get a lot of boosting to our team because of that win. 10K XP for Spencer Faulkner, Newsom, and Hufanga. Absolutely huge for the development of these 2 young first-rounders. And he's coming off a stellar game as well. So he has a chance to break out in our next game. This is it, man. We need some level of happiness to end off this season. I really hope it's going to be Faulkner breaking out, because if it's not, I'm not sure what there could be to save this team's morale for year 3. But 2 points for now off of the 10K XP. He's up to a 75. Field goal now a full scheme fit as a rookie. Now for Ja Phillips, trying to boost the offensive line, get better in the pass protection. We're going to go agile here to match the scheme fits. And for Kilroy, going to go zone and make him more well-balanced. And he gets +3 zone right there. That's good. Another one for rookie running back Anthony Newsom. He's up to an 80 overall. Gordon Harrison going to get up to a 77 overall zone free safety with +3 awareness right there. And then Terrence Ford, a point for him as well. we end up getting mollywopped by the Panthers 27-10, which is coming a common score line against us, at least thereabouts this season. Nearly a perfect day for Bryce Young. Faulkner, no INTs, thankfully. But Newsome, less than 3 per carry, only had 7 attempts. I just don't get it. Don't give the guy enough chances to run the ball, and then you pass it and you stink. Got a sack for Nick Ricard, but he hasn't done really anything this year. That was his first time me calling his name or even recognizing him at all this season. Same for Ahmad Money. I haven't seen that guy at all this season. And Faulkner obviously fails to upgrade. Now, Cam Baker has only allowed 1 sack this season. He's up for a contract. So why not give this guy a deal? He's been great for us. He was a backup last year, filling in for Derek Quinn, who was traded, and now he's been playing well. Nick Ricard is also up for a contract deal because he was acquired in the offseason to be a depth defensive tackle as a young player, but he hasn't put up any stats this year at all. So why would I give the guy $15 million if he hasn't shown anything off the bench? Now, Ahmad Money is a similar story, but he was drafted here and he wants a lot less. So I figured why not try and bring him back, but he wants a bit more money. Now then, we're going to withdraw for a lot of other players like Keontae Carter, Sean Lindsay. We're going to withdraw for Matt Norton here. Just wrapping up most of these. We're going to bring in Wynn for at least 1 more year. I would love a 2-year deal, though, because he's been solid depth for us on the offensive line. Going to let Dominic Rhodes go. Same with Ben Stevenson, who was here prior to us showing up. Clayton Pear does not want to re-sign this time around, so I will let him walk this year. But Max Ferreira wants to return, so why not try and bring at least a solid backup center in? But now Ezekiel Chambers having his best year to this point, but still waiting for that big breakout year where he puts up, double-digit sacks. He could get there by the end of the season, but it's only a couple games left. He's going to make do to get there. Upgrade point for Blakely here, who has not had a single sack since Middleton was traded. Just straight up, just nothing. Jamal Colbert here might give him more playing time next year with the cutting of Matt Norton. But we end the year with a loss, a win, and the loss losing beating the Broncos, 21-7 for our 3rd win of the season and our last one. Faulkner played very well despite throwing a pick, but it was a good game. Newsome played pretty well as well, 4.5 per carry and a score. Victor Weeks had a good day. George Ford caught a touchdown. At least something to be proud of to close out the season. Another sack and a half for Chambers. He threw a pick to Kareem Stokes. Tyler Stevens missed a field goal again, but I think it was blocked. Then we lose against Seattle, a close loss, 21-24. We picked off Cam Butler 3 times and still couldn't win, despite Faulkner having a good day. Same with Newsome. How do we lose this game? I don't know. How do you do it, forcing 3 turnovers off a guy that has typically owned you in his career so far? I'm not entirely sure. We allowed 2 sacks in this game, and we got none ourselves. But 3 picks, 2 for Warner, 1 for Stevenson, and Stevens missing another field goal at the end of the year, and that was our first Player of the Week award at all. Fred Warner, Week 18, the only one all year long for your Niners. We end up with the worst offense, the worst defense for the 2nd year running. We are lucky to not be fired out of here just off of merit alone. These last 2 years have been hilariously awful, but at least we got 2 more wins than last year. But by far worst in our division and worst in the entire league. We have the 1st overall pick once again, and I swear I will not be trading it today or ever. I will not be screwing this draft up again like I did last year, because if I didn't, we're probably in a much better situation this season. Faulkner ends up having a pretty bad rookie year in terms of the production and the touchdowns, but he took care of the football, only threw 10 picks, had a couple of bad games, which will happen in your rookie year, but I think a rating of 90 is at least a rating to build off of. But we got to bring younger, better playmakers in here to help this guy out. He didn't really run the ball at all. He's supposed to be a scrambler quarterback, but he doesn't scramble. Not sure how to get him more rushing yards. And Newsome had less than 4 per carry at the end of the season, despite playing pretty much the entire year. Victor Weeks, less than 1,000 yards. I think Ayuk had around 400 or 500 when he was traded. We ended up having a pretty good balance of yardage across the team, but we need some actual number one playmakers in here at receiver. On the offensive line, everyone was good besides Clay Farr. Just straight up, he was by far the worst. The offensive line was so much better when he wasn't in there, so I want to keep most of these guys around, especially Cameron Baker and Josh Phillips. Those guys were fantastic this past season, so we're going to keep those guys around. 19 tackles for loss for Chambers here, Allen right behind him, and 9 sacks for Chambers in his 3rd season. So last year had 4, before that had 6, so big improvement. Hoping for more next year and hoping for maybe a breakout year, maybe an X-Factor breakout year, hopefully. We'll see. But Shaquille Franklin was a complete letdown. I don't know what I was expecting, really, but it wasn't what he did. I mean, he started all but one game, really, over James Allen alongside him and had less sacks and less tackles for loss and less tackles than he had in any year previously in his career. And that makes no sense to me. He just was bad this year. If we played James Allen at number 1 and played Ricard or Mooney at number 2, one of those guys probably plays way better. So that was another failed signing for us. The receivers have failed. He's failed. The corners failed. So now we're here. You missed the playoffs. Here's the Pro Bowlers. We got a lot of guys on here, but we probably only have like one guy, maybe. Maybe. I'm not even sure if we will at all. Nobody on the offense yet. Nobody on the offense whatsoever, really. Or the defensive line. Any linebackers? No. Do we just have no Pro Bowlers? Only Hufanga. He's the only guy. Our lone Pro Bowler this year was our strong safety. Embarrassing. It's going to be a Brock Purdy against Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl. The Commanders and the Chiefs. We gave them Brock Purdy in the offseason, and they have ridden his coattails all the way to the Super Bowl as the 5 seed. So impressive stuff for them. Cam Butler, most yards. Blair Murphy, most touchdowns. Most INTs. Richardson and Gabe Taylor tied at the top. Most yards. Walker. Don't forget, they drafted a first-round running back, and they had the best running back in both yards and touchdowns by a long shot. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues his 3-year stretch of leading the entire league in yards and touchdowns for the at least the second year, but I think it's been 3 straight. Here are the worst left tackles in the league. Nobody on there for us, thankfully enough. DeMarco Bolden, most tackles in the league. Most sacks belongs to Hutchinson with now 21 this year. Good for him. INTs, you got a 6-way tie with Gardner, Derwin James, Van Try Shepard, McDaniels, Barber, and Tyson Gamble. A lot of guys picked off some quarterbacks, and Jake Moody was the best kicker. Now, the Jets drafted Warren Long, but they have Callum Barnett here with no tags, so he's probably gone this year. Warren Long did not play, but it was a start-F quarterback, so hard to say if we missed on him or not yet. But what's weird about the Lions is that they drafted Corey Bridge, but they also have Joel Bradley, the replacement for Antonio Fuller, and he had a monster season, a monster year out of Indianapolis. Corey Bridge was taken first round, star dev scrambler, and hard to say we missed on him too, but Fuller had a massive year in Tennessee, but they missed the playoffs. Pat Cunningham played behind Molden here in Cleveland and was a normal dev running back. Tevin Ward was a rookie running back as well. Star dev elusive at 77. Achan is playing over Buckner, but he was an X factor. And he was the first guy I saw that I wanted to draft at running back, and I chose to take the other guy instead. We could have had an X Factor running back right now, and instead we have a normal dev running back. What have I done? What did I do in this last draft? Man, I significantly screwed that up. I gotta hope that Newsome wins Rookie of the Year here, because if he doesn't, wow, I just really put us in the dirt in terms of those draft picks. Mahomes wins MVP, Peterson wins Coach of the Year, and these were all the winners for the annual awards and all that stuff. Elvin McDaniels wins Defensive Rookie of the Year, had the 4 INTs to tie the league leaders. Ruiz, best offensive lineman. Garrett, the defensive line. Barber was the best defensive back. Moody, best kicker. Kenneth Walker, of course, wins Opoy. Hutch wins Depoy. Newsome wins Offensive Rookie of the Year over Faulkner, but I want that instead because Newsome needs the depth trait. Faulkner already has at least stars, so that at least is one saving grace from this season and from our draft, at the very least. Thank God he won that. That's huge. Chad Hatchett wins Defensive Rookie of the Year over for the Buccaneers as their defensive tackle. Joel Bradley, best quarterback over in Detroit. So they took a first-round quarterback for no freaking reason. Brian Flynn was offered to us in a trade earlier, but I'm glad I didn't take it because that made no sense for them, and they ended up winning the entire thing, and he won the award too. McCutcheon wins best defensive back as a rookie, but does not win Defensive Rookie of the Year. How does that work? I don't even know. But upgrade points out of this for Newsome. So it goes up to star dev. He's going to be like a 81 overall going into his second year. Hoping for a much better second year for him. And we should be getting one, I think, with the offensive line being improved. And Ray Gilliard, I think, had a really solid year after allowing a couple of sacks in the first couple of weeks. Really finished strong. Faulkner had a nice couple of games to close out the year too. George Ford, 74 overall now, but the Chiefs win against Brock Purdy and the Commanders to win their 6th title. Wow, Mahomes, the MVP again, but they've won back-to-back and 3 in the last 5 years. So the dynasty keeps going for Kansas City here in this rebuild. But Casper ends up being a star depth player like the rest of our rookies. We got unlucky with these picks this year in terms of their depth traits. But at least Chambers, Allen, Kilroy, Hufanga all kept theirs. But unfortunately, Fred Warner went down from X Factor all the way to star. He lost 2 overall depth trait things, and now he's 34 years old. He's probably got 1 more year until he is going to retire, but I'm probably not going to trade him. For Harrison, he goes down to star depth, and now that he's no longer a rookie, I'm not going to change that back. Sean Spriggs was a star depth player, so every guy we took was not a superstar or X Factor. We just missed on the depth trait players, and Stevens was a star depth player as well. But at least he had one. I can't be too upset about that, but this is your team to end out the season. The offensive line is an entire scheme fit. I like where it's at for now. I don't think there's any major holes on it now, but I want to bring back Aldridge, and Clay Farr, I think, proved that he was probably just a bad signing. But we have plenty of draft picks. In this draft and our next one, we have 6 top 100 picks because we have the first overall pick. We have lots of 7s here too, but we have 6 top 100 picks in our next 2 seasons. We got to really hit on those and not mess those up. We also have a lot of cap room, $95 million. So we're going to keep both coordinators for now, but a lot to think about, a lot to work towards here in this offseason as we are trying to get ourselves out of the mud again as this rebuild continues in San Francisco. I'll see you guys next time out. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, and peace out. Offseason coming soon.